What up, YouTube? In my last video, I said I was gonna talk um about flirting, and I had some recent insight about it, and I was kind of able to put it more into words. Um, and I'm by no means like an expert in flirting, but this is coming from someone that wasn't a natural, and I feel like I'm starting to pick it up. So hopefully these tips will be very helpful for you. So I would say that, yeah, flirting with women is actually quite counterintuitive, and it doesn't really go the way that you would think it would. And also, I'll explain by starting off with a few rules that I've learned and written down about it. So, for one, this may sound kind of counterintuitive, but is that women will actually start conversations that they are not interested in and they are not deeply excited about. And it's very important to understand this um, because of some reasons I'll get into. But I believe the reason that they do this, maybe there's a few reasons. For one, women tend to not be as much of risk takers, so they'll stay in, kind of talking about very surfacey stuff. The other reason is that they may consider it masculine to actually try to flirt or try to talk about something, like lead the conversation, because flirting is the more risk-taking behavior. And the other reason might be that they consider it immodest, right? They don't want to look easy. Okay, so a big thing to keep in mind: never rely on the fact that the conversation is going in the direction that the woman finds deeply interesting. Just because she's engaging in it, or she may even be leading the conversation that way, don't rely on the fact that it's actually the direction the conversation should be going in, right? Because like I'm saying, they will just say things that aren't that interesting and wait for you to take the lead, right? And this could even be over text. A woman might say, "How was your day?" And she's asking that question, but she doesn't necessarily want that same question in return. Like, she might want it, but she would get bored quite quickly, like, you know what I'm saying? And so don't ever rely on the fact that the direction the woman's taking the conversation in isn't necessarily what she's actually excited about, because of those reasons I just mentioned. The next thing I want to say is that if a woman seems like a more logical person or shy or whatever, kind of goes back to my earlier points, don't assume that she doesn't flirt. Okay, she may be good at it. She may only be good at it if someone else activates it in her, or at the very least, she may understand flirting and wants you to make her laugh, or wants you to make her shy, by flirting with her. And it is extremely important to flirt with women, and I want to get into, I believe, how to do this. And it's important because you want to make the girl shy, you want to make her blush, you want to make her laugh. Then it's good feelings, and also she feels like, you're the leader, you're taking a risk, and it's just like, it creates that tension in her. The next thing I discovered recently that was really shocking is that women seem to actually be more creative. They can text more creative and speak more creatively while bantering than outside of banter, right? Than having logical conversations. So my assumption was always like, okay, if you ask a woman a logical question and she doesn't have a creative answer, like let's say you ask her where do you see yourself in 5 years, or describe your dream house, or something like that. You ask a logical question. Oftentimes they don't really have an answer, so I would immediately assume, okay, she's not that creative or not that thoughtful. But what I actually realized recently is that women can be very creative when it comes to banter and flirting, and it's like a whole nother language for them. Like, that's actually their language. like they might not be good at answering a question like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Like that might, I mean, or even just little things like, just asking them their favorite color, or asking where they want to travel. Like they might not be very elaborate in these type of logical conversations because it doesn't have as much emotion in it. And a lot of women, they're actually good with this. And I've even like chatted recently with texted a woman who doesn't even know English that well, and she can still get it, like the flirting that I'm doing or whatever. So yeah, another thing is that you don't want to get if you don't flirt at all, like, and like maybe later down the road it would be more likely that she will not receive your flirting well. I could be wrong about this, but then that could also make you assume, okay, she doesn't flirt. But you should try it early on, or semi early on, just to kind of test the waters and figure things out. All right, so now I want to get into what I figured out about flirting and how it actually works. And it was pretty shocking once I came to this conclusion. All right, so I might have a hard time articulating this, but I'm gonna do my best. First, I want to talk about the different. And I have a little piece of paper I'm gonna show you. So first, I want to talk about the difference between how men and women think, right, and how men and women are turned on. So I've realized that men and women. I'm gonna just flip the screen real quick. Men and women are very different in that men tend to be turned on just by surface level thinking, right? And women seem to have these more deeper brain connections and a lot more brain pathways. I'm not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure I've heard that and read that. They have a lot more neural pathways for emotions and relationships and things like that. So they can't just be stimulated by the surface like a man is, right? So let me give you an example by showing you this paper. So if you look here, let's say this is the surface, right? This is the surface of someone's mind, right? This is how men are turned on. Men are turned on just by the idea of going out on the date with her. So dating. It's just the idea. Men are turned on by the idea of just hanging out and being with the woman. Men are turned on just by the idea of seeing her body, and they're turned on just by the idea of thinking about sex, like just on the surface level, right? But one thing I've noticed with women, there's a few things I want to say, but with women, they are turned on by thinking about subcategories. I hope I'm articulating that right. Subcategories of these things, right? Because every category has more minute details that fall into that category, right? It's kind of like, for example, if you had sports cars as the category, the subcategory might be like, under that might be Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches, like, and then it gets more and more detailed as you go on, right? So that's how women, they're more detailed, and there's all these neural connections and pathways between different ideas, right? It's kind of like, there's a whole connected world of ideas, right? Like, even if you thought about fruits, an apple. If you thought about an apple, it might make you think about an orange, and if you think about an orange, it might make you think about a peach, and if you think about a peach, it might make you think about a pineapple. Like that, it's a whole interconnected system, right? And that's how women think. They think in terms of associations. They don't think in terms of surface like this. See, we don't need these more detailed associations. We're turned on just by the idea of going on a date with her. We're already excited about that. We're turned on simply by the idea of thinking about having sex with her. We don't even have to have these other detailed associated ideas, right? And maybe women are like that because they're more lower risk. So they deal with more mysterious ideas so that they never have to speak their mind directly. But well, I'll try to give you some examples of this. So I'm gonna try to do a few categories, but the first one I've written out under the category of dating would be these smaller little details of, let's say, hand holding, locking eyes, hair, the idea of tension, you know, the idea of moving closer gradually. Like I got these two off of ChatGPT. I was just looking it up real quick. But the reason is because these are more detailed, and it's a whole interconnected web of ideas, right? So that's how women think. See, this is why in romance novels, I think I'm gonna buy like romance short stories and stuff. There's always these ideas like locking eyes, you know, he looked at her, touched her hair, like, because these ideas, they associate with all these other ideas, and it brings up this whole picture. And that's what women, they want the picture, they want to imagine what's going on, while men, all he has to do is think about going on the date with the woman, and he's already excited, right? So this is a giant difference. Let's go to another category. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one, and then I want to explain another factor that goes into this. This is the second factor, but first we're going to go into this. So a man would just be turned on by just thinking about the woman's body or seeing her. But let's say, or maybe, you know, a man might think that the compliment, just calling a woman hot, is just going to turn her on, but it's so surface level. It doesn't get into the details, the interconnected web of ideas, so that you can stimulate deeper parts of her brain, right? So it would be better maybe to say like, you have one of those bodies that makes clothes look better. I got this out ChatGPT. I just quickly thought of it, or typed it in, rather than saying, oh, you're hot. That's surface level. You have one of those bodies that makes clothes look better. It's more abstract, and it's deeper, and it's more detailed and more mysterious, right? You could say there's something seriously distracting about the way your body moves, right? That's another one, right? And then there's also the flip side, you know, how a man, or how the woman would be turned on by the man. The woman often isn't just turned on by looking at the man's body. The man could say something like, I like the way you look at me when I'm wearing this, or, you know, I've been working on my arms lately in the gym, or I got this one on ChatGPT too. I thought you like the way I look. Hold on. Oh, it said, I had a feeling you'd like this shirt more if I took my jacket off. You know what I'm saying? Like, those type of things, more abstract ideas, right? And so you always got to touch on the subcategories. And I think there's another reason why I want to get into this, why it matters, is because then you're not complimenting the woman in entirety, right? If you compliment the woman in entirety, saying you're hot, it's kind of boring for her, and she loses the story. There's no more storyline, right? But when you say something like this, you have one of those bodies that makes clothes look better, you're still calling her hot, but it's kind of abstract, so she can't really finish the story, right? The line is kind of confusing. It's still almost like, I need more. I need to hear more, because I'm not sure if you're calling me hot. It's just, I think it's like you are, but like you aren't, which leaves tension, right? And you want the story to continue. That's why women read romance novels. They don't just want to read a book that says they had sex, the end. You know what I'm saying? Like that is not exciting for them, right? Okay, okay, now I want to talk about, I don't know if I coined this term, but I call them closed loop comments versus open loop comments. I think I heard this idea somewhere, but I can't remember. But this is extremely important, okay, when flirting with women, all right? A closed loop comment is like what I was getting at a few moments ago, is where it's solved, the whole problem, you solve your compliment completely solves the tension. And you don't want this. This is exactly what I was talking about a few videos ago, where I said that women do not want you to solve their inadequacy or solve their insecurities. They want you to solve a portion of it and leave some of the insecurity there, right? So that they can continue to get a high off of your compliments. If you completely solve their problem, solve their sense of insecurity by saying, oh, you're hot, well, now they're bored, right? Because people want to work on themselves and they want to continue to get better. If you just validate them, they're going to get bored with this. This is just human nature. I don't think it's sinful to be like this. Everybody's like that. If you take someone to the casino and they pull the slot machine and they win, the first time they're going to be hyped. The second time they're going to be super hyped. But if you leave them there and they pull the lever and keep winning the slot machine 1 million times, or even 300 times, they're going to be bored, right? So that's why you don't necessarily want to solve the woman's internal issues or insecurity with your compliment. All right, so that now we get over to open loop comments, right? Or open loop compliments. These are compliments that it compliments her, but it leaves a little bit of gap, a little bit of mystery, so she can't complete it, right? And I'm not the best at doing this in person, but I've been getting better at doing it over text. And you can get creative, and you can even chat GPT this stuff, like ask, like, what are some compliments or some replies I can do to her Instagram stories that are compliment her, but still leave some mystery, right? And I've been creating my own and just writing them in my notes, right? And I actually used a few and it actually worked. So let me give you some examples of some open loops. All right, an open loop compliment could be something like, you have a way of making people want to know more about you, right? It's kind of open loop. It's like, why, okay, there's something about me that's good, but what is it? You know what I'm saying? And then maybe she'd ask, okay, what is it? You'd be like, you could be like, yeah, and if she asks, like, okay, what's like, what makes people want to get to know more about me? You could be like, I'll let you know at some point. Then that's another open loop comment. She's like, oh, I can't solve this, or let's figure that out together. It's another open loop. Like, okay, what are we gonna find out together, about me? All right. Another one could be like, you're different in a good way, right? Then she'd be like, oh, I'm different, but like, is it good or is it bad? But she knows that you like her. She probably knows that you like her, so she knows that you're probably making a positive compliment or a comment, but she can't quite put her finger on it, and it just leaves more mystery, and it's fun. You could say, I definitely noticed how good you look, right? And this one is still, you're saying that they look good, but you're putting the comment in a different tense, right? It's like past tense, so it's like, it still makes it more mysterious, right, than just saying you look good. I definitely noticed how good you look. It's like, it's not the same comment as saying you look good, and it makes it more complex to figure out, right? Which is a good thing. I came up with this one myself. You could say something like, you're the type of girl I would see in an airport for 30 seconds and it would take me a long time to forget you, because I always had that. I've seen memes about dudes seeing girls in airports and never forgetting them, so like, you could say something like that. And even if you're gonna say like, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to flirt too, and some of it, I feel like it doesn't have to be open loop. It can be closed loop if it's very courageous, or if you're joking, like, because if you're joking about it, then maybe she might not know that you're serious, which actually kind of makes it open loop, right? If you said like you got the cutest butt in this whole entire city, right? She might be like, nah, is he just joking? And then it becomes open loop, where she's still not sure if your compliment was totally for real. Even though you said it directly, she might just think you're joking, so she's not sure. and then creates more excitement. Okay, I think there's a lot of other ways to flirt. Like, not all of it has to have tension. Some of it, I think, is different types of tension, like looking into their eyes and saying, "You're so sweet." You know, those type of things is a lot, is not as mysterious, but it's very intimate. But it's still, you need these open loop comments so that it contrasts with, you know, it's negative and positive. Women need negative emotions and positive emotions. They need to be told negative things and bad things about, and good things about themselves, but just don't do it too extremely, right? Okay, I hope this really makes sense. So think about this. Women are on the surface, they're on the subcategories of the surface, right? And women need open loop compliments, all right? So just try these over text first, because then you can at least think of it. I'm not the best at it in person, but you can try it over text. I think this is huge. If you follow this, like, I was already getting reactions from girls, a few girls that I'd never gotten before. Like, it's really different, you know? And, you know, a woman might put up a wall against you if you don't flirt. She might find you uneasy, or like you're judgmental, or like she might feel afraid of being judged and just put up a wall and act like she's not a romantic person, or doesn't have sexual thoughts. Like, and I'm not saying to flirt sexually, but you know, but you definitely want the girl tapped into that energy, right? And the open loop is not bad, right? Because I used to think, like, I used to take that verse in the Bible, you know, God's not the author of confusion, so therefore you should never confuse anybody. But this type of confusion is good. There's confusion in movies. You're supposed to be confused from the starting of the movie to the end, right? You're not supposed to know what's happening necessarily. As long as you're safe, everything's fine, right? So take this one into account, for real.